Hey folks, how's it going? Today we are going to talk about a Middle Eastern ripoff of South Park called Block 13. A cartoon that was created with the intention of being a family-friendly show. Because why not?
تفضل حبيبي.
المخدرات يعني الحبة اللي يعطونها أبوي قبل لا يسوي العملية لما بطني ينتفخ.
South Park itself is known for its risque comedy and taking pot shots at anyone who may deserve it. The wealthy elites, politicians, San Francisco. Yeah, they deserve it. All are fair game in the eyes of Matt Stone and Trey Parker. But there have been times where South Park went just far enough to piss off certain people and to warrant a response. Roman Catholics did not appreciate their Virgin Mary depicted as a literal Bloody Mary, to put it lightly. And then you got China, who banned this series for its references to the Dalai Lama and also Winnie the Pooh. And then you got Kuwait, who banned South Park from airing entirely in 1999 due to their jokes towards Muslims and how they represented then President of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, who was depicted as Satan's abusive gay lover who dies horrifically in the South Park movie.
No, it can't be. You're dead. I killed you.
Yeah, you killed me, so? Where was I gonna go, Detroit?
Not a glowing representation of their leader, to put it lightly. Kuwait banned the series outright. But South Park was a very popular show. So, to paraphrase, what if the creators created an Arabic animated sitcom that could be just as popular as South Park? And what if they did that by copying its art style, none of its high production value, and with permission from Paramount? Well, then you get Block 13. Now, this may look shamelessly like South Park Middle Eastern Edition, which, South Park already did, but without brushing it aside for just blatantly looking like South Park, I wanted to ask myself something more constructive towards Block 13. How does it stand out from South Park? Where do the similarities begin and end? And is this really a family-friendly version of the show? Even as a ripoff, was Block 13 transformative enough to be its own show? Well, let's find out. But wait! This video is brought to you by Helix Sleep. Spring is here. And along with spring comes spring cleaning. It's important to maintain a clean living environment. And that also means making sure your bedroom is feeling fresh for the season. And while it's easy to overlook the state of our mattress, our sleeping pads aren't exempt from things like bacteria from years of use. The human body is disgusting, and we get it all over the bed. 7 years on an old mattress can contain more than 16 million colony-forming units of bacteria per square inch. That is over twice the amount of people that live in New York City. Forget about it. I'm walking here.
We don't talk like that. We don't say things like that. You understand? Do you understand?
Okay, sorry. Forget about it. So basically,
moving on. This is why now is a great time to consider replacing that old mattress with something from Helix, the innovators of premium sleep. Helix has something for everyone, from their award-winning Luxe mattresses, their plus-size mattresses for big and tall sleepers, and their kids' mattresses for growing bodies. Their patented sleep quiz makes finding the perfect mattress for you a breeze. And everything is conveniently shipped to your door with free shipping in the continental US of A. I personally am a side sleeper, so I knew I needed something that could conform to my hips and my shoulders. I'm a broad guy. I need broad settings. And I've been sleeping on my Midnight Luxe for some time now. I think about 2 years almost. And it has completely revolutionized the way I sleep. Honestly, I mean this. It's been the best sleep of my life. I woke up this morning, I'm like, I feel so cozy and rested and happy. I feel more alert. When I wake up, I physically feel more prepared to start the day. And it's also improved my mental well-being. And I mean that. Plus, they have recently added to their lineup with their all-new mattress topper collection. These things are awesome. I recently got a premium topper from Helix, which is an excellent choice for sleepers who are looking for added pressure relief at their hips and shoulders. So consider replacing that dirty old mattress or enhancing your current mattress with something from Helix. Head on over to helixsleep.com/Saberspark or click on the link down below in the description to take advantage of their spring savings event and save 20% off site-wide. Doing so is an investment in your own health, and it also supports what we do on this channel. Thanks again to Helix for partnering up with us for this video, and now back to the video.
انت البطة افتح ايدك ابي اطقك.
بس صالح أنا ما سويت شيء ولا تقولي البطة.
Block 13 stands as a curious artifact in the evolution of Middle Eastern television. An animated sitcom born not from creative spontaneity, but out of censorship, controversy, and cultural necessity. And for a Western audience, the results come across as audibly gross, disjointed in its writing, and lacking much identity apart from the South Park nostalgia. This show, folks, is a mess, including superfluous music and multimedia inclusions that seem completely unnecessary. Created by Nawaf Salam al-Shamari and airing during Ramadan, Block 13 appeared to be a sanitized alternative to its American counterpart, focusing more on the characters' neighborhood and their family lifestyles in Kuwait. So to understand Block 13's existence, we wanted to understand the weight of its airtime and have someone who fluently spoke the language be able to give us insights. Someone who had watched many shows of the region broadly and could understand the specific tone Block 13 wanted to have without relying on dubious subtitles. To approach talking about this show authentically, I needed to call in reinforcements. My writers who worked on this script connected me with someone who grew up watching Middle Eastern television. They gave additional context for the intentions involved with Block 13's creation, which is like really cool. A shout out to my writers, my editors. They're the ones who worked on this video. Like, I really appreciate it too, because I could not discuss this critically without factoring that kind of information in. Nevertheless, the show was aired during Ramadan. And Ramadan is not merely a month of fasting and prayer. For the people, it is a moment of collective introspection and community values. It's also a time when TV viewership peaks across the Arab world. Ramadan has 2 meals split apart during the day, before dawn and after dusk, called Sahur and Iftar respectively. Families gather post-iftar and networks scramble to provide entertaining but spiritually conscious shows for them to watch. Block 13 airing during this period set a clear expectation that its content would be moral, educational, and appropriate for family consumption. An example would be a show like Dam Tam Salamin, which aired in a similar time slot. It followed the slice of life misadventures of a family learning lessons about family, environmentalism, and everything in between. It's a show that fits the spiritual and societal mentality of that region and gives very digestible lessons that parents and children can be enveloped in. That, by and large, is the standard show they wish to see air during Ramadan. Block 13, on the other hand, has Batman, Michael Jackson's Thriller, space battles, and Bollywood dance numbers overcrowding a series that's so paper thin in premise and forgets the whole education part by episode 4. Unless you want to, consider problematic education, which, hey, we'll get to here in a bit. The show itself centers on a group of school children:
Aboud, Saloom, Hamoud, and Azus,
and their collective experiences living in the neighborhood Block 13. On paper, the topic of each episode arises from a lesson or adventure they're sent off on with the guidance of their teacher.
Aboud getting a cheat sheet on whether cheating is okay.
The boys going to a concert. Or hey, being in space. That all sounds run-of-the-mill, right? Even for the space mentioned, many children's shows take very run-of-the-mill premises to create safe and digestible after-school programming. And based on initial expectations, that's what Block 13 was going for. But I'm sorry, all the good grace in the world I could give could not ignore the ear-grating truth. I couldn't tell if the show's actually educational because the voice acting for the kids is horrible to listen to. I'm talking like nails on a chalkboard levels of bad. It doesn't even matter if you understand what they're saying. How is bit crushed chipmunk squeaking grating noise pleasing to listen to? It's too much.
ها لحظة شباب، وين سلوم؟ يعني وين؟ أكيد راح يدور له إشارة مرور يبيع فيها علوش. إي والله صاج يا عبود.
Fundamentally, watching this show is a test of auditory patience. Visually, it tries to replicate the South Park aesthetic, simplistic 2D cutout animation, exaggerated expressions, and slapstick violence. But it falls short, lacking any consistency or finesse. Characters vary wildly in design complexity, from one scene to the next, and even from one character to another. This makes some look perfectly in line with the South Park aesthetic, and others look like they're from an entirely different show completely. The lack of artistic cohesion makes it more of a messy homage than a legitimate transformative artistic look. Even with the inclusion of the multimedia art styles, the CGI, the real-life pics superimposed, these rough-looking lip flaps often come across as superficial and uncoordinated. It is stylistic noise masquerading as innovation, and any minor changes they make, like altering the lip sync, isn't enough to set it apart. Instead of standing out from South Park, it feels completely derivative of it.
No! No!
South Park did it! South Park did it! Which includes Block 13's characters who mapped nearly one-to-one with South Park's, especially their iconic quartet.
Abood is Cartman, Saloom is Kenny, Hamoud is Stan, and Azus is Kyle.
Personality-wise, they aren't too dissimilar from their South Park originals, but that does not mean they are good alternatives.
Abood is a manipulative, abusive, and vindictive little fat ass like Cartman.
The only difference is he's given a little sister to kick around, which is just taken from Kyle and Ike.
Abood
is essentially the main character of Block 13, where many of the episodes centers around him and his schemes to get what he wants. Fun fact, the favorite insult towards Cartman is fat ass in South Park. Based on the sub of Block 13, you would think the favorite insult of
Abood
is fat ass too. However, the term fat ass isn't really in the Arabic language. There is the term fat, but that's not what they're saying apparently. Based on the Kuwaiti dialect that Block 13 has written in, our correspondent for this video says they aren't calling
Abood
fat ass, but instead duck. I do see why the subtitlers wanted to make more of a direct reference to Cartman's trademark insults. But come on, a duck is just so whimsically insulting. Yeah, that's right,
Abood.
Shut up, you duck. I mean, yeah, it doesn't work as well English-wise, but it's good enough. But by further hammering
Abood
as the Cartman of Block 13, it defeats any attempt to differentiate him to begin with, and loses the education factor the show tries to have. I don't think the bratty kid who revels in chaos and fascism is the one to learn life lessons from. And I was not referring to Cartman there. Independent of that, we have Saloom as their version of Kenny, the resident poor kid of the group who is essentially made as the series' punching bag. So for those who don't know, Kenny is killed a lot in the early seasons of South Park. But to keep this family-friendly thing going, Saloom is beaten up instead of being killed. Which I guess that's the gag. But funny enough, I find Saloom's treatment in Block 13 more cruel and miserable. More of the characters just rail on Saloom for being poor, to the point where he breaks down into tears on multiple occasions. Like, yeah, Kenny may have gotten killed a lot and teased for being poor, but you never really saw him cry or anything. And him being killed too is more cartoonish and you can just laugh at it. But to see Saloom actually cry and break down, that's kind of worse in my eyes. Kenny's deaths were always framed as surreal and arbitrary, not based on just, haha, he's a poor kid, let him suffer. As for Saloom,
انت الحين ريال لازم تساعد ابوك. ادري انك ياهل بس لازم تتعلم شلون تصير ريال، الدنيا ما ترحم يا ولدي.
الله يهداكم بس ايش حقه صارخون.
For God's sake, give this kid a break. Or are we just teaching the lesson that poor people are lesser people?
Oh, and Hamoud and Azus?
Yeah, they're just kind of flat personality-wise. I know that Kyle and Stan are kind of like the straight men when it comes to South Park, but here for
Hamoud and Azus,
that's particularly the case, with one who's the intellectual, and the other has a hat. The main four kids are clear rip-offs, and what they were given to make them different just makes them less interesting and more depressing. Even if you factor in the other characters of Block 13, their teachers, their American Kuwait classmate,
and Abood's little sister,
they don't bring any kind of vibrancy or charm to Block 13. The writing and the performances just don't work well together. Everything is worded and like they're taking a grounded approach to the story, but spoken with chipmunk talk and messed up lip flaps. Grounded things like exploring Saloom's family structure and a matriarchal poor family, and having subtle references to a woman being forced to marry someone 20 years older than her.
أبيها والله أبيها يما زوجيني إياها أبيها ما بدي أتزوج واحد أكبر مني ب20 سنة شو بابا يا يما فهميني يعني الواحد إذا كان من قطعة 13 لازم يتزوج واحدة من قطعة 13 شو الحكي قلت لك ما بدي أتزوج واحد غير ابن عمي حسين.
A very family-friendly topic, right? Many of the Arabic shows I have viewed for this video hold a patriarchal system in high regard and base their moral lessons around upholding it. That is very much a societal perspective. Whether you think that is right or wrong is more of a nuanced opinion. But I think it's very apparent that a woman fearfully worrying, even in her sleep, about being forced to marry a man 20 years older than her is more universally not okay. I don't have an issue with them being critical of stuff like that. Mostly, I think there's a more nuanced way that could have handled it to still get the same point across for their younger audience. In the end, children will experience uncomfortable things, and it's through proper education that we can teach them how to come to terms with such topics. Bluey referenced a miscarriage in a subtle yet powerful way. So I don't knock Block 13 for exploring aspects of their own culture to educate the kids who are watching them. Block 13's greatest strength is that their best episodes are written addressing social commentary without reservations that still highlight how it is important to the values of their society. The problem is that the same grounded writing creates a nauseating whiplash when the absurdities of the show sink in to distract from everything, including its educational elements. They take the insane situation South Park throws their characters into and just base episodes off that without much rhyme or reason. Bizarre pop culture references, unsettling and racist stereotypes, and tonal whiplash are only crowned with its incomprehensible range of music styles. What are you into? What do you want? A hip-hop version of the theme song that sounds like it was recorded by the Backstreet Boys? Or maybe you prefer this auditory vomit. Not good. But if that repetitive drilling of the rhythmic droll didn't win you over, don't worry. They'll play it more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Ah! Who needs good characters and storytelling when you have a nonsensical, irritating earworm of a song to drive you nuts? Instead of cohesion, viewers are treated to a series with confusing stories and nauseating music that undercuts the message they are trying to deliver. Give South Park credit. Like, even when its lesson of the day is spoken in flowery language to mock those same sorts of hammy kids show morals, South Park's irreverence is deliberate and biting. It has a point to still say, even if it goes crazy and random. Block 13's randomness often feels like a byproduct of writing without a central thesis. One very glaring example of this is when Block 13 talks about the pros and cons of fascism, talking about the painter of Austria. If you don't know who that is, that's Hitler. Yes, Block 13 has an episode where the boys first learn all about the promise and greatness that the German party brought to their country. Well, at least Block 13 did something different from South Park. I don't think I'd expect them to give praise to Hitler. But even in the series' misguided attempts to make a point, by the end of the episode, I don't know if Block 13 is saying the regime's government was good or bad. The boys are watching the Hitler documentary when their TV announces that all citizens in Block 13 will be getting jobs. No need for experience or quality control. Everyone is qualified, which then leads the boys to go do various jobs and get hurt and have an awful time, showing that this system is bad and the kids wouldn't like it. Again, I don't really understand what this episode is trying to convey here. It feels like they're trying to break down what's bad about this broken job system, but they're also like indirectly praising Hitler's fascist system? What? And whatever they think they're doing here, it feels like an awful lesson to include for a family-friendly audience. The very fact that Block 13 mimics South Park, which was banned for religious insensitivity, only to lace its content with Nazi imagery and cultural caricatures, it feels kind of a bit hypocritical in the context of Ramadan programming.
Especially when you have Abu dreaming of dressing up as a fascist dictator.
Like, what the actual hell? How is this considered family-friendly? Despite its intent to reflect Kuwaiti culture, Block 13 often undermines itself through shallow or insensitive portrayals and religious contexts, but does so through a lens of mockery. Saloom getting hurt isn't a commentary on poverty. It's a running joke at his expense about how much it sucks being poor and no one respects him. He's punished for being industrious, demeaned for studying, and ignored when crying. At no point is anyone punished for hurting him. And that really bothers me. Block 13 uses Saloom as a punching bag,
while Abood gets to go off on his little fascist misadventures.
The other two kids exist alongside them. Even when addressing topics like arranged marriage, school discipline, or historical education, Block 13 veers into absurdity, undercutting any possible educational value. Instead of delivering thoughtful satire to balance the absurdity like South Park, the humor, visuals, and audio in Block 13 all devolve into surreal nonsense. But despite these critiques, Block 13 did well enough and ran for 3 seasons. And I guess spawned 2 spin-offs, one with some of the pets of Block 13.
جدتي جدتي أعطتكم عمرها.
Oh no, we're not doing that again. Stopping that noise right now. Phew.
And then there was a reboot of Block 13 called Street 13,
which audio and visual-wise looked vastly more distinct and tolerable than Block 13 ever did. Though it lacked the impact Block 13 had, it doesn't hold any notoriety outside of nostalgia for Block 13 or state-supported repetition. Block 13 is still aired in reruns during Ramadan, but it seems more like they're airing it because it's readily available and not from an organic cultural embrace. But what can you expect when Block 13's claim to fame was just, we look like South Park and are family-friendly? It makes the show a case study on the limitations of adaptation without vision. It was conceived not out of artistic drive, but necessity. Kuwait needed a South Park substitute that would toe the line of acceptability. This resulted in a show that aspired to be edgy, relevant, and family-friendly all at once, and in doing so, failed at all 3. Rather than being a beloved series that holds up on its own merit, it's desperately aping the shows it's trying to stand out from. And family-friendly? I love to have more adult jokes in kid shows, but mostly what we see in Block 13 are childish, surreal visuals and audio mixed with grounded adult topics that do not build on each other, much like how the kids sound like high-pitched noise, and the show itself is just visual noise, annoying and headache-inducing. And this all for what? To be like South Park? Tom Salamin blows Block 13 out of the water in terms of animation, writing, and aesthetics, and truly feels developed with a Ramadan-enjoying family as its audience, while Block 13 feels like a square peg being smashed through a South Park-size hole. That's oddly fitting too, as apparently the show isn't actually called Block 13 in Kuwait. Yeah, you heard me right. I verified this with one of my writer's sources for this video, and he's confirmed it's more of a language pun, I guess? The logo structure is like how children in the Middle East would do their spelling assignments and work on their penmanship of each character. In each box, a character spells out words. When they get a basic understanding of that, then they write out sentences in this cursive writing style, which strings every word and the sentences together. With that in mind, the character's Block 13 writes out as, here we go, Thil Tha Tash Ka Ta Aini Ta. I'm trying. Which reads as, phonetically, here we go, As Kita Thil Tha Tash. Guys, this might be a shocker, but I'm not Arabic. But this all translates directly to Peace 13. not Block 13. As far as I can tell, this could be intended as a double meaning title. As in piece 13, a piece of wood, a wooden letter block, like in kindergarten, like where children would start writing like this. Maybe the creators weren't trying to just cram a 4-letter word to fit their logo design? Then we were told of an actual translation of a 4-letter word for block, Hera. So the correct title for Block 13 would be Herathilitatash. Doesn't that just beautifully capture Block 13 as a whole? A dubiously motivated attempt to cram their version into a slot that just can't mimic what came before it to any real degree. You could have some funny YouTube poop level gags come from it, with its off-the-wall fractured perspective of its Western inspiration. But it's chaotic where it should be focused, offensive where it should be clever, and loud where it should be thoughtful. Its strange legacy, marred by tonal confusion, problematic messaging, positions Block 13 less as a triumph of regional animation. It's more of a cautionary tale of what happens when content is manufactured by censorship rather than by inspiration. And it does so by taking the brain and turning it into mahalabia, which is a Middle Eastern milk pudding dessert. God, I'm so cultured. And while that may be a delicious treat, I refer back to describing Block 13 as simply this: audibly gross. But hey folks, those are just my overall thoughts about Block 13. What did you all think? Have you seen it before? Tell me down below in the comments. I'll see you all next time.